Today I want to talk about Dave Filoni's massive influence on The Mandalorian Season 2. And what better place to start than in Chapter 9 of The Mandalorian, Episode 1 of Season 2. The episode is titled The Marshal, and we have none other than Cobb Vanth in this episode. And without Dave Filoni advising Jon Favreau, I just think there's no way that Cobb Vanth would have come into this story. Remember, he was a character from a novel, but he wasn't even a main character in the novel. He was part of a very small interlude section in the Aftermath series. So seeing Cobb Vanth, the Krayt Dragon, as well as the Krayt Dragon Pearl, well, I just don't think that would have happened if it wasn't for Dave Filoni and his involvement in this project. So let's move on now to Chapter 3 titled The Heiress, and I think it's safe to say that Dave Filoni had a huge influence on this episode too. Of course, it features Bo-Katan, a character that he, along with George Lucas, created for the Clone Wars animation series. But furthermore, the two characters with Bo-Katan are reminiscent of the two characters we see her with when she's reintroduced into Star Wars Rebels. So again, I think it's pretty easy to see Dave Filoni's influence on this character in The Mandalorian Season 2 and how she was adapted to live action. Obviously, Jon Favreau would have used that resource as Dave Filoni to make sure that that translation was as best as it could be. Even though Dave Filoni wasn't directing the episode, I'm sure he had lots of input on it. But with that said, let's move on to Episode 4, where we had the amazing reveal of the Dark Troopers and the return of Moff Gideon. And again, you gotta think that Dave Filoni was the guy to bring the idea of the Dark Troopers to the writer Jon Favreau. I mean, the Dark Troopers have really only been mentioned in Legends, and there was something very similar to Dark Troopers seen in Star Wars Rebels, though they were called Imperial Sentries. And just try to imagine that last scene of The Mandalorian where Luke Skywalker is cutting through Dark Trooper after Dark Trooper. I certainly don't think that would have been as entertaining if it was Stormtroopers or maybe even Death Troopers. And part of that is because Jon Favreau did such a great job writing them into the story and really building them up as a force to be reckoned with. So that said, let's move on to Episode 5, The Jedi, which obviously Dave Filoni had a massive influence on. This is the only episode of the season that he's credited with writing as well as directing. And I've already done a video on how massively successful I thought he was bringing Ahsoka to live action, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there, but I think we can see Dave Filoni's influence on the overall story of Season 2 in this episode as well as beyond Season 2 when we get the name drop of Grand Admiral Thrawn by Ahsoka Tano. Not only is he setting up the villain for the Ahsoka Tano series, but I think beyond that, he's setting up the greater Filoniverse, or the Star Wars Cinematic Universe on Disney+, whatever you want to call it. But hey, Star Wars fans, as per usual, I've left out a few details in my super quick video, so let me know what I missed in the comments below. As always, I'm Mike, happy Christmas Eve, and may the Force be with you.